sagst du dann?
So, well, I was just waiting for the live stream to see if we're already online. Thank you all for being here and welcome to Block&Wine 113. This time we have a special edition. Girls just want to have fun. And we're very happy that we have two incredible women speaking today about women, money, and investing. And I also am very happy to already introduce our first speaker, Katharina Scheutz, who will introduce Geld ist Frauensache, which translates to money is a women's business. I hope that's an okay-ish translation. And she will tell you all about it. And afterwards, we'll have a discussion with Lisa Pulsinger, who is a coach for women in finance, money mindset, and general coaching about finance. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Now the stage is yours, Kata.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Sophia. So, sound is okay? Can you hear me? Where's my friend Tommy? Tommy, can you hear me? Yeah? Oh, good? Okay. Because this is important. You look good. You all look good. You all look really good. Do you feel good? You should do, because you look good, and you're smart, and you're driven. I mean, you're here tonight, yeah, rather than doing something else. Hey, I reckon you should start with a round of applause for yourself. Give yourself a clap. Yeah, nice. Nice. So, yeah, welcome to this evening tonight. So, I haven't tried this one yet. Let's start with that one. Now that we know we look good, we feel good, let's make some good decisions around money, right? But before that, let me introduce myself. We are here, yeah, because we are girls and boys, and we like fun, we like funds, and we like fundamentally awesome investment knowledge, because this gets us to financial freedom. So what's my name and what's my claim to fame? I'm Kata. I set out to find my fortune in my early 20s. I ended up finding happiness in New Zealand, and not to overdo it, with joy, I became a chartered accountant. So from there, let's fast forward. A lot of things happened, life goes on, life happens, you make one or the other decision, to the last year, which I spent as a content specialist with an Austrian crypto tax company. So yeah, my background is tax accounting, I can't deny that. So what else could you know about me? If I'm not in front of my computer, researching stuff, writing stuff, you'll find me in the woods, on a mountain, off-road running, any distance. I love it. And, oh, really important, my shoe size is 41, which I think is quite big for not such a tall person, really. So how does all this qualify me to talk to you about wealth creation? Well, frankly, it doesn't. What I think does is my deep passion that I have for sharing the knowledge that I gained on the path. I walked the path, I tried a lot of things that didn't work, and I found a few that do work. So let's see. So I set out to solve the riddle of wealth creation some years ago. How did this happen? When I came back from New Zealand after 11 years, it was quite clear that I hadn't paid into the Austrian pension system. And I was never going to get anything out of the system. And you know, sometimes when you don't have something, it's actually what pushes us towards what we want. So that was okay, I could deal with that. But then it also hit me that I preferred spending a lot of my time looking after my family, giving my time as a volunteer, learning new things, discovering new areas of expertise. All these things aren't particular wealth-creating activities, right? And so I figured, well, if I didn't want to spend the later years of my life collecting refundable bottles, I had to find a solution. And I started to think about it, and to research and test. and backtest portfolios. And in my mind, there was this question, okay, you got to find a way, either live or make money. That was the seeming question in my head. And that's not a particularly sexy question to ask yourself, like either, you get to live or you get to make money. But luckily, life often, if we think the question is either or, it's actually and. So after a bit of trial and error, a lot of research, a lot of study, I actually figured out there are principles. There are principles for wealth creation that work and that every one of us can apply. And my story of simply not earning enough income is a story that especially a lot of women face, especially when they decide to have families or to take on responsibilities in the family that are unpaid activities. So this is how the journey began. And now, me telling you about my life, that's all very well, but the more important question is like, why should you care? Like, your story is different. What's your story? One that applies to all of us is pension. What pension? So the good news for all 50 pluses, please raise your hands. No one? Okay, sorry. People 50 plus can expect to get about half their last income before retirement as retirement income from the state, right? For the rest of us, it's going to be a basic provision. And these are numbers before the money printing for the corona pandemic started. So we do have issues. And unfortunately, the whole thing aggravates for women. Like all my male friends in here, thank you for your understanding that I am focusing on educating women, because the situation for them is this. Like, yes, women hold up half the sky. Yeah, sure they do. Unfortunately not when it comes to money. Like, what year is it? 2022, right? We still have a gender pay gap. Things are improving, definitely. I give us that. We are on the right track. This is good. But we got to do more than that. It's still there, the situation. We do have a gender gap, meaning that typical girls' jobs, they are still there. They're less specialized, hence they get paid less, hence there is less income. And especially if a family decides to have children, well, it's usually the partner who earns less who's going to stay home with the children. So who's that? And then we have an information gap. Do you know that investors in the traditional finance industry, it's about 70% men, and in crypto, it's about 80% men. So if you're marketing, well, who are you going to target the marketing to? The information is just more readily available for you guys. So that's why we create education on finance, specifically for women. So, right. What's our situation we have? We know our retirement income isn't going to be enough. A lot of us here are crypto people, I think, so it has dawned on most of us that bank consultants are salespeople who are there to sell their products and put their interest first. So where does that leave us when we look for financial education? Usually we end up at Google, Twitter, somewhere, social media. So what happens is we quickly get inundated with a bunch of information that is either too complicated, not relevant to our own personal situation, or that's just purely scam or looks so much like scam that you don't even want to touch it, right? So, doom and gloom. It's looking dire, right? It's not. There are principles that work, and there are people who figured out how they work and they taught us, and we are happy to pass it on. And educating on the principles that work is what we at Geld ist Frauensache do, and it's also what my colleague Lisa with her coaching does. So we are here to help you transform from the classic, I don't know what to do, put my head in the sand, double down on what hasn't worked in the past, investment strategy, to cheery Uncle Mac Scrooge, who's very happy thinking about money. So it's about learning the steps to take, and it's about having a plan and not having the plan taking up all our lives. Yeah, and I don't think the Scrooge McDuck thing has been overdone when it comes to talking about money. Just love him. So, what do we do at Geld ist Frauensache? So there are 4 principles that drive our community. One is simplicity wins. We want to get stuff done, right? When we start creating wealth, we want to get stuff done. And complexity is an absolute killer to getting stuff done. So the second one, I'll let you fill in the blank here. I would say time is relevant. Not so much the time when you enter the market, but the time in your life. Like, boys and girls, I hate to break it to you. Sorry, Marilyn, investing is probably not going to make you rich. So the question is, how much time do we actually want to spend with the investment, and how much time do we want to spend creating wealth or with our families? So it's about relevant information. Let's focus on what works. Sound principles. Yeah, bulls and bears belong to the market, but bull doesn't belong to us. It's based on financial sound principles. And what we have is a supportive community. Like we had this conversation earlier. It feels so important, especially for women, that we can talk to our peers about investing. Like what we talk about, the people we surround, the ideas we surround ourselves with. This is what eventually we become and what we learn. So that's a part of our community there. What you don't get are the next 100 or 1000x altcoin recommendations. There's a really good platform, I think it's called Twitter. You can find a lot of that kind of information there. I don't have it. I got nothing to sell. I don't have a product for you. All I have is knowledge. So we want to be product free. It's important to us, and it's also not going to be hundreds of hours of course material because it's just simply not that complicated. Ask the right questions. Get the right answers. That's what it is about. And no one has got time for buzzwords and complicated explanations. So, how does it work? You got a completely free offer. Sign up for the basic course for free, and you also get 5 weeks access to the community platforms because we believe in democratizing financial knowledge. So this should give you the base to get started. And for specific questions, the Geld ist Frauensache community is there, and awesome coaches like Lisa are also there. So, question is that fair that we're paying into a retirement system that we're not going to get anything out of? Is it fair that as women we get paid less for the same job? Is all that fair? No, it's not, but it is. So, going with JFK's words here, life is not fair, but not always to your disadvantage actually, because having the right knowledge will actually give you a decisive advantage. Just waiting for the pictures to finish. Okay. All good? Okay. So, if you'd like to join our community, it's probably the easiest way. Either flick us an email or the website Geld ist Frauensache. You can find all the login information there. And I know we all have goals and they are different, but I'd like to finish up with an invitation to ask yourself your goal at the current pace. How quickly are you going to reach it? And if you don't like the answer, maybe change the process. So, thank you very much. Do we have time for questions, if anyone's got a question?
I think we'll have time for questions afterwards in the round. Perfect. So I would ask you to take a seat here. And I would invite Lisa to the stage. You may sit in the middle. Or is that confusing? Maybe now I said I see the picture, maybe you want to switch. Yeah, so. Sorry.
Do we share a microphone?
No, we have another microphone, right? Perfect. Now we'll see very soon if it will work. Lisa, you just entered the stage. May I ask you to introduce yourself very briefly.
For me, I don't have the classical finance background. I actually have a background in IT. I've been working in IT for 8 years, a bit longer. And finance, or the world of money and investing, just came into my life by surprise, actually, like a few years back. And it really took me, and it really inspired me so much. It changed my life. And so I really got into it, and I thought, no one's talking about it, and it's a secret we can't keep longer a secret. We have to talk about it, and that's how I got actually into investing in finance. And I'm super happy to have the opportunity to talk on a stage, not just to women but also to men about it.
Yes, we are very happy that you are here talking to us about finance, and I feel that, you know, from a very early age we form our assumptions about money, how we handle money, how we feel about money. And a question that was interesting me very much, besides your motivation on why you do this, we've heard about that, but do you remember maybe one time in your childhood that actually you had a recallable experience with money, where you can say, okay, as a child, that was the first time where I can recall that I experienced money, that I have made some thoughts about money? Because, you know, if we get pocket money and we just buy sweets, we're already participating in the financial system, but we rarely think about that. Maybe, Kata, do you have an experience that you want to share?
Yeah, I can share an experience. It's funny that you mentioned sweets and pocket money, because I actually received pocket money at a very early age. But for my dad, it was all about teaching me about handling money. So the deal for getting the pocket money was that I had to show, to get the next pocket money, that I had written down what I spent it on, how much money I got.
Okay, now I don't wonder why you became an accountant until like, okay. Okay.
It was so annoying at the time. I remember being this little child. It was so annoying. I hated it, but it definitely taught me about keeping track of income and expenses.
Okay, and Lisa, do you have an experience that you can recall?
For me, I think it's not a specific experience, but in general, so we were 4 kids at home, and my dad was the sole earner, my mom was at home, she took care of us, and also my sister, who is disabled, and so on. So he was the only one working and the only income we had. So we always like we had everything, but money was tight. So we only went shopping at Hofer, for example, and only like when something was on offer. So I think from an early age, I learned the value of like saving money and how important it is to save. And it's interesting, like for me, it turned out that I'm really good at saving, but my sisters, it's the other way around. They're really good at spending money. So it's always interesting how our money habits, or what we learn as children, influence us once we're grown-ups.
That's also very weird that, you know, you and your sisters both took different things away. I think for me it was also a bit similar. I also had like a family where we had like very much the saying, you know, money is not the most important thing, and I think that's something that people learn from like a very early on, and then you think that, you know, money is not important, and actually that's something very toxic to learn, because money is important and we need money and we need knowledge about how to deal with finances. And then we grow up and we are there and we think, okay, money is not that important, but how am I gonna pay my rent? And I think especially for women, it's like something that we in German call bescheiden, you know, to be, not to want too much. Like women should not want it all. You both work with many women on financial topics. I think you do a lot of mindset coaching, Lisa. Can you maybe share some of the questions that your clients have when they come to you?
Yeah, of course. Maybe first on being modest. And there's actually another gap. There is the gender pocket money gap. And even girls get less pocket money than boys. And boys tend to ask for more pocket money as children even. So it even starts at a really early age. There we see how structural all of that is, all of those gaps. And in general, the questions I get, they don't really necessarily are about investing, but it's earlier on. So it's about really how to structure money, how to have an idea, okay, how much am I really earning, how much am I spending, how to get an overview, how to really manage money. And I think it's very good that those questions start there, because investing is like step 10 along the way. There's so much before that. So most of the questions I get are actually around money management in the beginning.
And yours, Katha, with Geld ist Frauensache?
Yeah, interesting. I get a lot of practical questions of how do I actually get started? How do I do this?
Yeah, and I love the name, like Geld ist Frauensache. Can you maybe tell us why did you choose it? Like money is a women's business, and why do you believe that money is a women's business?
Yeah, sure. To me, there are actually 3 layers to this. So the first one is at an individual level, simply pragmatic to avoid poverty in old age. That's the first level. But the second level to me is also about how we interact in relationship, like actually seeing eye to eye in our partnerships. And I think this is important for all of us, for men and for women in relationships. Like if you have a relationship breakup, as you know, a lot of us have experienced, or we have to expect at this time, it's a lot easier when you're on a level field together. And then the third aspect, to me, it's actually, now it gets a bit philosophical. It's more the principle of wealth creation, like the feminine aspect of wealth creation being something that nurtures, that looks after the family, that looks after the whole. And this is all of us. This is men and women. We all have the male and the masculine and the feminine inside us. So Geld ist Frauensache is about the feminine aspect of wealth creation.
Thank you for sharing. Actually, I love the name, and I think it's something catchy, and it's something that stays in one's mind. Actually, at least it stuck to my mind, and I will remember it. Now we've talked a lot about money and like starting. Now this is Block and Wine, and we of course talk a lot about crypto. So I'm gonna ask you, Lisa, what role does crypto play in the coaching you do? Do you ever talk about it, or like are people asking about it? Are women asking about it?
So to be honest, in my role as a coach and trainer, it's just a side topic, because I think, or I feel like a crypto is more an advanced topic. So we really start with how to manage money, how the stock market works, what does investing mean, why it's important, and so on. And then I think crypto is a next step. I sometimes get questions and I answer those questions, but it's more something that comes a step afterwards, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's quite weird, because for me, like I bought crypto before I bought anything on the stock market, and I think also that might be some like interesting angle, because we say like only 20% of women are crypto, but already 20% of crypto is women. So, Katha, do you think also maybe since it's something new and that the threshold of getting into it, or like trying something new that is new to everybody, might also be a driver for women entering crypto?
Yeah, I think it can be, and I have a lot of the women that come to Geld ist Frauensache. They are like you. They actually invested in crypto first, and then they start investing in other things. And what I see, it's typically the younger generation. So, yeah, 20 to 30, they usually start with crypto first, and then, you know, the 40 pluses, they usually are in the stock market or in real estate already. But yeah, definitely it's actually easier to get into crypto than into the traditional financial market.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just the way you look at it. Like, you look at the traditional financial market and you see like these Wolf of Wall Street guys. I mean, I don't want to say, like, in crypto there's also a lot of men, but you know, it's about representation, and that's why we're also happy to have you here to talk about these issues. And I think it's important that you see also women talking about this issue. I also want to give a shout out here to Cryptologisch, the podcast that Lucas is doing. They also invite women to speak about all topics, blockchain and crypto, but representation is just one part of it. What do you think are the things that we have to focus on to change the participation of women in the financial system, in crypto?
Yes, I think one really big part is really what you said, representation, the role models. That if you invest in crypto or in the stock market or anywhere else, go out there, talk about it, show others, even if you don't have like the typical financial background. I think that's even more important, because then a woman might be like, okay, if she can do it, then I can do it as well. I think that's very important. And then secondly, we need to start talking about it. And I'm really happy that there's so many guys in the room today. Also, you should really start talking to your colleagues, to your girlfriends, to your sisters, to everyone. Start talking about it. Because I think one of the big problems why we are in this situation is that we have this saying or this common knowledge that you don't talk about money, but actually in the end only employers benefit from them, because if I don't know how much my male colleague earns, maybe he earns 10% more. If I don't know it, then I'm not going to complain. But if I know it, then I will complain, and then they have to pay more. So in the end, it's just something where employers benefit, but for us it's really, really bad. So talking about it and role models.
Kata?
Yeah, totally agree with all this. And I would add to it education. We need to know what we're dealing with here. And I'm also a big fan of community. Having a safe space where you don't feel like the idiot asking in a group of techies what a hash rate is. Yeah, let's all be free from that. So communities are an absolute key in this to me.
Yeah, I also want to add to your point, Lisa, because I think, you know, it's one part that women educate themselves about how they can invest and how to be part of the system, but in the end we're all part of the system, and also it's not only a women's problem to deal with the unequal pension system, to deal with the wage gap, to deal with the potential that we lose by women not being part of the system, all the wealth that could be created by women. And Kata, you said it before, so I want to ask you again about why do you think that women that actually get into investing, that get financially literate, can be like an engine for growth for all of us?
We do have potential there. It's that simple. We're not tapping into the full 50% that we have. And like, if we want to take it a step further, like if we're just sticking to the same thing, like in the traditional finance industry, it might be, you know, the old white men that are talking and making decisions. Well, if it's only the young white men, well, this is creating a monoculture. And monocultures are actually very susceptible to threats when things start going wrong. So I think adding diversity is a necessity if we want to have strong ecosystems.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's like diversity is always a driver for innovation, and we see that, and we also see that actually there's enough studies that show that actually women that invest make even a little more profit than men do currently. And I think there's so much potential that we still not using. I want to ask now, since we talked a lot about the potential, also a bit about the challenges. Elisa, what do you think are the challenges for women that are maybe just now thinking about, you know, oh, as you said, where can I start? How do I get my finance in order? Oh, crypto, what is it? How can I invest?
Yeah, so I think one challenge is really also what you said in your speech before, finding trustworthy sources and to really find someone that's not trying to sell you something. So if you go to a bank, yeah, they earn commission, even though like the consulting is free, they get money for what they sell you. So let's not forget about that. And then really take it step by step. Don't, if you're here tonight and if it's the first time you hear about investing and crypto and Bitcoin, don't invest tomorrow, but take a step back and really start. Sorry?
Yes.
Okay, you can do that. That's not what I recommend, but yeah, it's always a good idea to invest. And first, like really start getting an interest in the topic. Like, what's for me so important is to not see it as a topic that you have to do. Oh, now I need to take care of my finances, but something that drives you. Something like, yeah, I get to do my finances, and if I invest, then I can buy this and that, and then I will be wealthy, and I will just work part-time anymore. So really try to see it from a positive angle and then take it step by step.
Kata, do you want to share on challenges?
Yeah, I think you're most likely going to be faced with too much or too little information. Like either there's information overload that you get, so an easy path to that is, yeah, sleep on it for a night, but set yourself a time frame, like, you know, deadlines, get stuff done. And the other one is, if you get too little information, like nothing is ever as good as it sounds, right? It's going to be dodgy if you don't get enough information about it. So a remedy for that is just purely research the critics. There's always, it has to be a thesis for something and an anti-thesis for this. And then between the two, you can come to the truth of it. So.
Thank you. Now we talked a lot about, do you want to add something, Lisa?
Yeah, and I think something else, at least that was a big surprise for me, there weren't so many challenges, so it's actually easier than I thought it was. It's not rocket science. So I think if you find the right sources and if you really take some time in the beginning to really get into the topic, like theory-wise, you will be okay. I think bigger challenges might be mindset challenges.
Yeah, I felt that, because when you said, you know, you should love doing your finances, I remember that the 15th is coming up and I should do my bookkeeping and I hate it, like, okay, but I have to, and I'm also trying to actively work on my mindset. Maybe what would help with my mindset right now would be, maybe you can share some, before we start the question, share some stories of clients that you maybe had, success stories. Do you have actually something that you can share of women that actually were coached by you or took part in Frauensache and afterwards managed to do something?
Yeah, one client of mine, when we started working, she actually got laid off and she was like really in a bad state and she didn't have any work. And during the time of our coaching, within 3 months, she found a new job which she really liked, and she also overcome a lot of like mindset issues, because for her it was okay, logical. I earn more than I spend, so I'm saving money, but she just couldn't save money. She found out it was a lot because of her relationship with her dad, and he was always spoiled her as a child. So for her, it was like always really difficult to save money. We kind of like managed that. And what was also key, what I said before, to do like put your finances into perspective with something positive. So we talked about her life goal, and we actually calculated her life goal. And then she got super motivated. She knows how much she needs to save every month, and she even founded 2 businesses now. So
wow, okay, that's really a great success story.
That's very cool. Yeah. I remember a young artist in one of my last courses, and she was fantastic. She had 1 million questions, and this is exactly, you know, who you want to have in a course, asking 1 million questions. And you could feel that she had no experience in finance. It was a completely different subject to her, and she actually came from a crypto aspect, and she had, until that time, she had given the responsibility to her partner. She was a bit fed up with it after he lost a lot of it, so she decided to take it into her own hands again, and that's when she joined the course. And at the end of it, it was only 2 weeks, at the end, after the course, she actually sent me a message, and she had started her savings plan. She had put her plan into action, and all this time that had taken up her creative capacity in her brain, actually thinking about structuring her finances and what to do, it had freed up again. And she was super happy, successful at her work, and has got a plan.
Thank you. That's also an impressive story. Now I want to open up the discussion to the crowd. Are there any questions? And don't be shy. We discussed before, there's no stupid questions. Whatever questions you'd like to ask them.
Maybe I kick off with one question. You said investing is not rocket science, and you had the right sources to, well, get it done. Which sources did you have at the time?
So for me, the eye-opener was Madame Moneypenny. So I think, Sophia, we talked last year about it, that you also really liked her. Like, she's like really, really good. So I invite everyone to follow her. And then Gerd Kommer, like he's like the investment guru on the German-speaking market. And what I really liked about him, that his books and everything he publishes is really science-backed. So you will always get the sources. You can always read more into it. You can always double-check if what he's saying or writing there is actually valid or not. Finanzfluss is also really good.
I'm also a big Kommer fan because I like the science. Yeah. You could follow the channels of Geld ist Frauensache.
Hello, thank you for the great presentation. I'm really a beginner, and I'm also not from the financial market. I'm from medical background. But I would like to know, do you have any recommendation with how much money I should start to invest, for example? Or should I be careful to not invest too much money, for example?
Okay. So as always, it depends. So first of all, what's really important before you start investing is that you have like an emergency fund on the side. So in case like an emergency comes up, that you don't invest this money and only invest money you know you don't need. If you know in 5 years' time you want to build a house and you need the money for that, don't invest that, because the stock market or the crypto market can be down. You never know. And so that's one thing. And then first of all, you need to know, okay, how much actually can you save each month? And then what is your risk tolerance? Okay, first of all, from a mindset perspective, how much risk can you bear? Is risk like, stock market or crypto is like a casino, or do you say, I don't care? So that's one thing. And then secondly, look at your goals and then try to calculate how much risk you need to take and then in the end, how much money you need to invest.
Yeah, sure.
Who will pay you? How you will take the profit from who? That's the question. So where does the profit came from? That's the question. So are you selling somebody something for a bigger price because of the fundamental value, or you are waiting for like company to get more profit? That's the 2 points. Taking profit. From my point of view.
Thank you. Yeah, just had a practical tip for you. If you want to calculate the different, like how much do you need to save, how much are you going to have after X amount of years, there's a really good website. It's called, do you speak German? Yeah, it's called zinsenberechnen.de. And you can do all sorts of calculations in there. That would be a tip to check that out. Yeah.
Maybe a bit more generally speaking, when do you know for yourself that you've learned enough to do the jump, you know, to put yourself into the water? Because I think this is, for some people, they get into it, they get better at it, but maybe they push this actual event of investing further, and they might never do it, you know. Is there something that tells yourself, hey, okay, now you can try it?
I think it's a really good question, because what adds to this is often people end up standing on the sideline for their whole life, because the market's just gone up, ooh, it's too late, or the market's just gone down, ooh, it's going to go down further, and I don't know enough yet, so I might just wait for another month or so. So there would be a tip for that. Two things, like if you understand the principles of what you're investing in, if you have understood that, that's the first tick. And the second one is, you can start with small amounts of money. Like, it's enough to start with a small amount to actually get a foot in the water, to actually get a feel for what you're dealing with there. And like a friend once asked me, he's like, hey, Kata, what's actually your most important investment? And I would always say, well, it was my first one. That was the most important one I took. So that's my...
The question is, why is price going down and why is price going up? And who can sell for the more money than you bought? So, and what was the smallest price? But if you take a stock market, you can take company with 10 millions or 12 billions, or doesn't matter. And the question is, who can short that stock? That means who can sell for the less money, and how is company making profits, what is the fundamental value, and that are the questions. So how I started this, well, like I put 200 euros on vaccination, on Moderna. I made double first time, and then I started to ask, okay, why, how? I was looking like they started to test vaccination, then people died, then market goes down because fundamental value is going down. Then they actually made this vaccination done, then it was successfully, and one day it was like 200% up. So it is like about, the price is always about how the investors feel. So now everything is down because everybody is like scared about investing, but yeah, those are the questions. Fundamental value, technical analysis. So if we take technical analysis, like, better not to talk about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your input. I still would ask you, if you have questions, raise your hand. If you want to share your knowledge, then we still have enough time afterwards to network in the community and answer all your questions, but I also really still want to give time, because I saw a question here, to people that want to ask our two speakers questions, and then in the end we'll have enough time in our community to also exchange on different viewpoints and investment strategies. So.
Thank you very much, dear ladies. You really presented very good point of view about investment, and definitely it's Geld ist immer Frauensache, starting from the, I should say, from the universe. And my question is, there is always some motivation to start with. For example, if I think about myself, I was a researcher. When you are a researcher, you don't care about anything. You are just focused on your writing and reading this stuff. Then I got motivation from a book. I read book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this book completely changed my mindset. Like, it's around 6 years back when I first time I read this book. And I immediately offered my 9-year-old son to read that book, because this was for everybody. It's ageless. You don't need to be old enough to understand this thing. The second thing was The Richest Man in the Babylon. These two books, they completely changed the mindset. So which motivation, at what point you thought that, yes, you have to change? Like, it changed my life completely, from a researcher to a completely different mindset. At what point you realize that you are doing your normal job, you are doing your normal activities, and all of a sudden you realize, no, we have to switch to the point which is our real duty. Because education about guilt is real duty of women, I should say. Why? Because when she is a mother, she has to tell her kids how to spend, when to spend, and the kids should understand what is their asset and what's the liabilities. If we understand the difference between asset and liabilities, no one will be poor on this planet Earth. So this is so a woman is always, and when there's a family structure, joint family system or the other family system, always woman is the most sensitive, I should say, person in family who is concerned about different aspects. Because woman does not think like one-dimensional. She thinks in a 360 angle. So that's why I wanted to ask you that at what point you both realized this is a point we should now switch our dimension. Thank you.
Loved it. Great, and the books are really, really good. I also read them. For me, it was really that day when I discovered that podcast with Madame Moneypenny. I was actually preparing for a salary negotiation, and until the day I thought, okay, I'm working in IT, so my salary isn't too bad, and I'm quite good at saving money. And then I was like, oh, there's a different world I discovered now. It's like a gate to another door. Behind there's a party, and no one's invited me. And I was like, okay, I can't keep this a secret. I want everyone to participate. I want everyone to invite. Because I realized that there's no alternative. You have to invest if you don't want to end up like when you retire to be poor, or that something happens like with the Austrian pension system, which you mentioned before. It's like, no, you can't. And that, and in combination with, I knew that I always wanted to do something where I don't like to use the word empower women, but where I can maybe support women to really live up to their potential. And then I found like, yeah, it's finance and it's money mindset, and I'm going for it.
Cool, thank you. Also love your question, thank you. For me, it was when I returned to Austria. I came back at my early 30s, purely to look after my parents. Unfortunately, they had gotten very sick. So I spent a time in my life when a lot of people either start families or start progressing their career. I spent taking care of my parents. And after this all settled down, I reflected on that, and I realized that I would take that decision in that same way again. If I was faced with that decision again, this is the path that I personally would take. So yeah, I realized I had to do something. I just had to change. I just had to separate my wealth earning ability from my income earning ability. And that's what really, I always loved money, just for, Scrooge McDuck, just loved having it. But to really make a change, that was the point where I really started to change. Yeah.
Amazing that you always loved money. Not too many people can say that about themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah, my name is Fabian. I'm from Kenya. And financial education, where I come from, is an afterthought. There are still so many unbanked people. But then at the same time, the rate of adoption of new ideas, especially crypto and financial innovations, are taken up very fast, because mobile banking was invented in Kenya a few years ago. And since then, it's similar to what we are seeing in blockchain. And my question to you is, are you open to educating groups of people in this environment? Maybe that's something we can talk about another time. But also, is the program open for males?
It definitely is open for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We can definitely talk about that. I, for example, also give workshop in schools, so I think it's also very important to start like education, financial education at an early age, and for everyone, really everyone can profit from that.
You mentioned about life goals of women. I'm just a bit curious, what are the similarities and dissimilarities between life goals of men and women with whom you have interacted so far?
To be honest, I don't know too many life goals of men. Just the stereotypical one would be, okay, to have a big car and to have a big house. That's very stereotypical. Correct me, please, if I'm wrong. But for women, it's usually, okay, doing something with an impact. So one wanted to create like a holiday camp for children, where children can really live their best vacation ever. Another one is like, okay, she wanted to go on a world trip. For others, it's like really having enough money to send like kids to university. So it's really usually more about having an impact and helping someone else. That's on the one hand side, which is a good thing. So that really brings like a lot of change forward. But on the other side, women also sometimes need to be a bit more selfish. They just a lot of them start investing or dealing with money because they do it for others and not for themselves. And sometimes being a bit selfish isn't too bad. Do you know any men life goals? Or can you share?
Yeah, come on, guys. What do you help us out here?
Maybe we'll postpone that to after work.
With some wine then.
Maybe a good intro question. If you want to talk to somebody, you just go to them and say, what's your life goals?
When Lambo?
No small talk, just go right to the life goals.
So, at one point you guys mentioned about inviting female friends to such communities. I have been trying to invite my female friends to crypto meetups, stock market meetups for more than a year. And they have not attended even a single one. And they are like, no, this is all about numbers. We don't care. I want to stick to my 9-to-5 job, and I want to work until I retire and live on my pension money. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I try to say, yeah, just have a look, If you don't like it, you don't have to join. So how do you guys motivate your female colleagues or friends to at least have a look once?
This one always works, how to get rich overnight. I think it is about finding that angle. Like, what is she concerned about? What are her thoughts? What does she want? I think this goes in with life goals.
Yeah, so I think it's important to not force something upon someone. Just some people need some time, and there my coaching brain comes up. It's really ask her questions. Okay, what you said. What are your concerns? So, and how do you envision your life in future? And it's not about mathematics. And I also had the same thought before, but it's really not.
Be then the final question, and then we go to the networking part.
Okay, then get ready for this, because this is going to be a build-up. You guys actually started with the comment on what crypto is, and I would like to remind all of you guys that Bitcoin was actually set up as an outlet and a medium to help women, basically. So people in regions that didn't have access to money, or communities like Pakistan, India, the war affected zones. So building up from that, then you guys had very interesting comments or memories from childhood and your relationship with money, your parents, etc. and then building up to where you guys are now, your experiences and how you built up to be where you are and your interest towards making more money, accumulating wealth. Don't you believe that this is the conversation about a generational change of how we educate our women, how we educate our children? Because there are a lot of studies between how kids are raised and the moment that you send them to school, to kindergarten, how girls are pushed and basically directed to be a caretaker, and boys are directed to be risk takers. Don't you believe this is a generational change? And coming to your question, don't you believe this has more to do with how we create now an environment for growth and for education for women and men alike, to basically be more inclusive, to support each person's interest? Maybe she really just doesn't like numbers. As opposed to, I totally support education, supporting women and supporting the road and access to information, to investment, etc. But don't you think, like right now, 2022, even though it's 2022, we're still a little bit late to the party, that right now it is more our duty to do what we can in the generation, but to create the basis for basically teach the new generation on how to be around money.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to achieve the best results if we approach the issue from different angles. So we're dealing with the current generation, we're dealing with the pension problem, and we're dealing with the future generation. Totally. And totally. And would you like to talk about the coaching you do in schools?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, like also what you said, we need to have different angles, and there needs to be a lot of different initiatives. Okay, I think also like the pension thing is something that makes women or people aware, because the problem is most women don't know that this problem exists, and if they look at their pension for the first time, then they realize, oh, okay, there is a problem. So that's like the first step to awareness. But then, of course, everyone should get the education, and definitely it's a structural problem. It's the same as we don't have enough women in IT. It's also a structural problem. Like little girls learn in school that they're not good in mathematics, that they can't deal with money. It's a big problem we have to work on as a society. And I think also politics come into play. So it's because of the patriarchal system that, for example, women stay at home, and like a lot of families, like they can't even afford that, like the husband stays at home because they need his salary because he earns more. I think it really has to, so we're doing one thing, we're taking care of one part of it, but it really has to be a whole ecosystem of educating really everyone in society, and of also making political changes, definitely.
Thank you. I think that are great closing remarks as well. We're all part of it, and thank you all for being here today discussing with us, and we would invite you also to stay for a glass of wine and either discuss your life goals or how we might structurally change society, that we have equal opportunities in finance and investing. And we also invite you to follow Block&Wine and also check out Block and Start and sign up for our newsletter to don't miss anything. And if you're a first time here in the meetup, there's a link to the Telegram group. And if you want to join and stay up to date, do so. And we would love to see you again next Wednesday. Thank you. You can share them at the networking. Thank you.